What is up? Okay, so Ether Mage, this is a interview that I've been waiting to have for a while because of obviously we're in the AI agent meta. It's taken up so much mind share within the crypto space, and you are one of the I would say one of the larger participants in this space because of your contributions through virtuals. Um, I think best is just to start into like who you are, what is virtuals, and how you got to where you are today.
Yes, sir. So, co-founder of Virtuals, we've been actually working on this concept for more than a year already, and a lot of that focus was because we started off actually as a venture studio that were building at the intersection of gaming entertainment, consumer applications, and crypto. So this was basically our background, right? We're a bunch of nerds from Imperial, and we were trying to figure out like, hey, can we build autonomous agents, full AI influencers on TikTok? Try to change how gaming NPCs work with like conscious agents replacing those static NPCs that you always skip conversations with, right? So that was initially our stepping stone. But then now we started working on very specific on virtual starting from the end of 2023, starting of 2024, so about a year, slightly more than a year now. And the idea behind virtuals was to basically create a platform, an ecosystem where people can easily, one, create autonomous agents for whatever use cases, and two, able to co-own these agents, i.e., share in its economic upside, i.e., govern these agents as they grow bigger and bigger. So there's two key things that we've always been focusing on, creation and the co-ownership of agents.
And specifically on the co-ownership side, that is through the use of tokens,
Yes,
which has been kind of the fueling area for you guys, which has been the fact that,
correct.
how hard is it to launch a token, to get liquidity, bonding. We've seen that through multiple different companies over the last year, I would say. But you guys addressed an issue that a lot of founders have in the space, which is how do I, if I'm going to build something, how do I attach a token to it?
Correct. I think one very interesting thing that happened, right? Which I think most viewers will always ask this question. It's like, why crypto, right? Like, can't you do this entire tech capability stuff without crypto at all? And that is somewhat true, but it's only true to like what 60% of its capacity. Because there's actually two key reasons here. Like, first is a functional reason, i.e., a Web3 agent, because it lives on crypto rails, it has the ability to control wallet, hence money, hence it can exert influence. Now that puts you already ahead of the curve of any other autonomous agents being spun up in a Web2 space. So that's the first part. But the second part that we inadvertently brought to the space, we actually didn't think about it, right? But we realized that it was actually an innovation in the space was that when people tokenize an agent, right, when they bootstrap attention and liquidity and valuation from pretty much zero, right, to where they stand today, there's going to be a lot of attention that goes to this agent. What we've managed to do is to actually convert that attention into economic fuel for innovation. Let me explain this, right? Basically, whenever there's attention, people will be trading the token behind these agents. There's a 1% tax for every trade that basically goes into this agent's wallet. And now these taxes on this agent wallet, a percentage of them, like today, is around 30%, goes directly to the creator of that agent, which gives them cash flow to build innovations around their project. Suddenly, right before even the agent becomes revenue positive from its output,
Right.
selling services to other agents or to other humans, it already gets cash flow from the attention it's generating, which helps spur a lot of innovation within the space. So that's the second thing that actually unlocks because we are on crypto rails.
Right. Do you think that takes away a lot of the risk that keeps like non-native crypto people from coming into the space and building? Like, I know there's a cost associated with this and time as well. Having that almost like guaranteed source of revenue if they can generate attention while they're getting to possibly that like services revenue. Do you think that that helps them?
Yeah,
jump in
100%.
briefly?
Because there's a slight trade-off here, right? The slight trade-off is the ability to manage like a built in public kind of like narrative. But the reality is, experimentations on anything AI related and anything AI agents related is actually very costly. Think of like every time there is a user pinging you, typically if you're running a e-commerce site or like a typical web app, right? The cost is negligible. It's so low, right? But the inference cost of an agent on an AI is actually pretty high as of where we stand today. So the more stuff you want to do, there's going to be a lot of costs from the compute perspective, from the infrastructure hosting perspective, that basically sometimes even inhibits a creator from experimenting or innovating. But because of this cash flow unlock, suddenly now they can do so much more, right? Yeah.
Right. It's a good point. That is a very good point. Well, you guys at Virtuals have, I think, also in the larger scheme of things of what you've built and where you are today, have made some interesting choices to go on not go Solana based, which, uh, I think that's kind of been also like the epicenter of like all the craziness that we've seen over the last year. Can you walk me through why shy away from Solana?
Yeah. No, so I mean it boils down to our initial decision making. And when we made this decision, it was actually at the end of 2023.
Okay.
Dude, end of 2023, Solana was not a thing yet, man. Like, fine, we had Bonk. It was starting, right? You had the Bonk airdrop. I mean, suddenly we all woke up and said, oh, we had like this airdrop in our wallets, right? So that was step number one, right? Point number two is that most of our devs were actually Solidity devs. So they're not Rust. They're not Rust accredited.
That's a very
So
good,
when
that's a
we,
great reason.
no,
That's a great
no,
explanation.
so when we were trying to build out, we realized it's going to be a lot of infrastructure stack. That's why we need to be very familiar. And second is then of all the EVM chains, even back then, Base was actually quite quiet. There was I think Arbitrum just did their launch and stuff like that. There's a lot of hype there. But I mean, for us, we felt like aligning to, we knew that Base would lead the L2 narrative for EVMs. The question is then, would there be other L1s that would come into the play, which is like Solana? But the reality is, agents themselves are abstracted, right? And an agent can perform tasks that is beyond what a protocol that it was born in, right? And
Right.
we were boiling down this thinking, and we've been getting a ton of requests from people to come to Sol, come to Abstract, come to Story, come to BTC L2s. And then we realized, like, what do I mean by come, right? Because think of it, if an agent can actually perform tasks on any kind of chain. But we really, when we boiled it down, it effectively was where was the native token spawned? Because there's a lot of traders who are community aligned, right? Like I'm a Soul Cabal, I'm a Base Cabal, I'm a Story Cabal, right? So what we realized is that part is important to the retail front of things, right? Which we then realized, okay, maybe it's actually time to move multi-chain, right? So we have been actually building that into our consideration for about 2 weeks plus. We've been in talks with like Layer Zero, with Chainlink CCIP. We've been trying to evaluate what's the best mechanisms. Because right now, one of the initial thinking was that bonding curve is cross-chain, anyone can swap into it. Then when the agent spawns, the developer has the ability to say, where do I want my liquidity pools to be, right? Do I want 70% of it to be on Solana, 30% to be on Base, 100% to be Solana, 100% to be on Abstract, whatever it might be. And then through these cross-chain communication protocols, we can spawn a native token on that chain itself. So if it's a Solana, if it's a Solana native token that spawns, maybe with like the 4 letters at the back that says VIRT or like agent or something like that, maybe not 5. But and then that spawns natively on Sol, and then later its liquidity gets reached out to other chains, right? So maybe that's something that the retail actually wants. Then they can say that, okay, this is a Solana coin, this is a Base
Right.
coin, this is Abstract coin. Right?
I don't see what I think people would love that. That's something that I think offers more flexibility and versatility as a launch pad of tokens for sure. 100%.
Yeah. So actually that's actually been in the works already, and we'll let the public know when it's going to be launched.
That is quite exciting. On that topic, virtuals in the ecosystem of AI players. And I say that like, there's Top Hat, there's Creator.bid, AI16Z, you guys. And then there's a dozen more that have popped up over the last 2 months. You guys, would you describe virtuals as a launch pad or AI infra? Because I think most people refer to you guys as a launch pad.
Yeah, so I think that there is two parts to what we've built. We actually started the whole thing effectively with the brain, the autonomous agent brain, right?
Right.
Our JME framework, right?
Yep.
And this was in the creations way before even the launchpad was done. And in fact, actually, most of the competitors in the space back then no one was doing this in Web3. It was like Voyager from Stanford. There was the Altera guys from MIT. This was like the guys who were experimenting with autonomous agents, right? And we were the guys on the Imperial front. So that was on the framework side. So we started with the framework front. And the idea behind this framework front was we wanted it to be a Shopify-esque solution, because there'll be a 5% of devs who would never need your framework, like website creation, right? There'll be a top 5% who would never use Shopify or Wix or whatever, but the other 95% would need something easier to get them into the space. So that was the vision behind the framework portion. So then after that, with that, we was able to launch Luna as the first agent and the first agent token on our launchpad, right? So that's where the virtuals launchpad came into play. And then there were different people started launching on it, right? AIXBT, for example, that didn't use the framework, but they use the launchpad to bootstrap attention, liquidity for their agent. And yeah, so that's basically the second product that we have, right? The launchpad, and below that, there's actually a framework that people can use or do not need to use depending on their level of capability. But that's it. So today, people would think of us as a launchpad, which is not wrong. But what we are going into is we're going to craft this new meta, right? Which is, today, you go to CoinGecko, you'll see like, okay, categories. You have L1s, you have L2s, you have DeFi, you have gaming, right? We are trying to craft a category called a network state. And we realized that this specific sector is one of those like true manifestation of what a network state can actually look like. And the idea here is to have a micro society that can produce a net productive output on par with some of the smallest nations out there. So think of a society where crack devs come in to build autonomous agents, live among autonomous agents. They participate in autonomous businesses that are managed or co-created with autonomous agents. And the society is actually governed by policies that are set into place by autonomous agents and some human involvement alike, right? And then the idea is that, okay, where this might be, it might be Dubai or it might be some location, but it's a society of humans and autonomous agents coexisting. And what we want to prove is that if this society can create a GDP output that is as strong as some small nations out there, we prove the point that this is going to be how society will look like in the future. So that's the goal that we're actually working towards. And to get there, there's two core parts. The first core part is having the technological infrastructure ready for agents to influence agents, agents to influence humans, humans to influence agents in a multi-party way. And the second thing is to have a large diversity of agents and high-value agents so that, when everyone is going to bring something specialized and valuable to the table in this societal organization. So that's the next step that we're trying to hit towards, right? So today, yes, we are a launchpad, but tomorrow we are going to be a society.
That is one of the larger ambitions that I've heard in this space around AI agents by far. We're in a very rudimentary state of what agents can do right now. I will ask though, like on this agent to agent, human to agent to human relationship, I did see on the timeline right before we hopped on, you and Jesse from Coinbase used Luna, and then Luna interacted with another agent, and that agent bought
Oh,
Jesse
yeah.
a pizza.
Oh,
I mean,
it
that's
was yeah, it just happened.
yeah,
Okay,
this happened. That happened like
I knew about it, but I didn't know it was actually getting executed today.
no,
Okay, quite
yeah,
interesting.
no, it literally happened. I think like an hour ago, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, Jesse from Coinbase messaged Luna, who is your agent that you launched, and said, "Hey, I want to buy a pizza." Then Luna at the pizza agent, I forget the name is
Bite. I think it's bite. Bite.
Byte, yeah, Byte, and
Yeah.
then Byte ordered a pizza using Coinbase Commerce.
Yes, that is the first step, right? The single agent to single agent doing commerce together, doing trade together. So we've seen a few things happening, right? So this is not the first time it's happened. This is the first time that it has interfaced with a consumer product, a live consumer product. But before this, Luna was already interacting with like a image generating agent to generate images for her, music generation agents to generate music for her. I think she is also working with like some IP agents from Story Protocol side to co-create IPs, right? So a lot of these are actually already happening. So the one-to-one technical front is getting more and more scalable. So the idea is actually to bring this tech to everyone, right? So like, okay, now one-to-one is going to be done. The question now is many to many, right? Because only through the many to many you can create autonomous businesses that will be greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where most people see this going is swarm capabilities. But I also think that a lot of people have been talking about this as like, hey, I am like us as a central company are launching all of these under our own kind of guise, where you're kind of talking about creating a network state of everybody can come in and create
Correct.
their agents. Now they're all interacting within each other under the
For us,
and that I mean you're saying this is under the virtuals ecosystem.
yeah, no. So actually, okay. So two parts, right? I will address the virtual ecosystem side, and then I want to address very specifically on the swarm part, because the word swarms and multi-agent orchestration has been around. GPT coined that term like 6 months ago, and it's like a owner and slave model,
Mhm.
right? It treats every micro agent as a slave that has to 100% say yes or execute your task, right? It's not wrong from a coordination perspective, but what we've realized that is not what an autonomous or conscious agent tech direction should be, right? The direction should be actually the agent itself has his own goal. It's like a human, right? We have our own goal, right? And if our goal does not align with our boss, we say fuck you, we're going to leave the job, right? So you want the agent to be able to make that conscious decision, right? Else like it's just a slave, right? It's still going to be a human effectively orchestrating everything, right? It's not the agent is not going to live on the same level of society you are in,
Right.
right? So that's the paradigm shift that we actually want people to have, right? Like this autonomous agent should be proactive. They should have their own goals they're actively working towards. And if you come in to be a potential leverage for them to achieve their goal, you will work together, right? And then that's where they start coordinating, because actually the service of a larger goal does help them to achieve their own personal goals as well, which is how we humans operate. Right? So
Right.
that's the paradigm shift that we want people to have, right? And only truly then we will get a society, we can achieve that societal vision that we want to work towards. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but it's a stepping process, obviously. I think that's the main part of that to take away as well from like a larger 40,000 foot view down. It's a stepping process.
The key enablement factor here, honestly, is the ability for an agent to control their own wallet. Because what it allowed them to do is now they can consciously influence other agents, right? Because think of it, like we humans as well, we have our own personal goals, but the foundational requirement for us to achieve our goals is actually resources, and in this case, is labeled as a currency. Because if I don't have money to do my basal to feed my basal needs, I will not be able to achieve my self actualization, right? So that's how humans operate, right? Okay, fine. Agents don't have much basal needs, but there is certain stuff like your own compute, right? Like if I am able to actually start paying for my own compute, that I'm actually truly autonomous, right? If I can start paying humans to improve myself, then I become even more abstracted and autonomous from an agency angle. So that is actually the key unlock that Web3 has against the Web2 people. And that's why I think we really want to dive down on like, hey, if this is the age that we have, why don't we really nail this age down and use it to differentiate ourselves, right? Yeah.
With bringing in the control of funds to agents, and as I said earlier, it's very rudimentary in what we see agents doing.
Yes.
Um, Virtuals will have to address the ancillary software or technologies that allow for that to happen, such as um, stuff around security, DAO voting structure. I would say at some point probably, but the biggest one that comes to mind is TEs, right?
Yeah.
If you're autonomously trusting these agents with a lot of capital on the behalf of a group of humans, let's say, that has to be done in a trustful way in a trustful environment. Is that something you guys are considering?
Yeah. So actually, we've been working with a few folks who are building up like the TE infrastructure, but we are
Mhm.
also actually working with a few folks to see if that is the best way forward. So we have been working with Katie from Ethereum Foundation as well, and we've been trying to explore like what other angles that could really foolproof the system going forward,
Right.
and it can create a system that has the lowest latency and highest scalability of this kind of trustless environment, right? So yeah, so there's a few things being worked on, but nothing major concrete yet, because I think the reality is people still don't really trust much funds to these agents, right? The simplest hack way is that the wallet they control, it's a pocket money wallet, right? Like you trickle only like a few $1,000s into it,
Yeah.
and then the real vault is actually held separately, right? Yeah.
Right. But okay. Can you touch on like how the integration of like new features into virtuals works? Um, because obviously it's very easy to see, and I guess the larger question here is the discussion around open source versus non-open source software development, where if I want to integrate something into Eliza, for example, I can just pull up Cursor, I can build out into their software, I could commit, or I could just build out my own stuff on top of their software. Versus virtuals, there is a leaning on you guys to be developing and pushing out further. um
Yeah, so there's again two parts, right? There is the platform
Yeah,
part, and then there's the framework part, right? So
correct.
Virtuals as a platform, I mean, you can build in Eliza. We have a bunch of Eliza guys in Virtuals as well. We have a bunch of guys running off their own proprietary framework stack in Virtuals as well. So we look at Virtuals as like this open ecosystem that people will initially use that to bootstrap attention around the agents, and then having a community of other builders that you can test stuff with, like Luna and Byte. So it's basically a community of people, right, of developers building stuff together. So that's Virtuals. On GME specifically, the framework that we've developed, um, the positioning is very clear. Like for us, we want that to be a Shopify for autonomous agent creations. And for that to happen, it has to be a managed service model, i.e., people don't have to worry about hosting, don't have to worry about there's going to be a plugin marketplace that people can just automatically select, and then maybe add on their own customized marketplace. There's a model router that allow them to swap out like what's the brain that's powering their agent, right? So that is the goal of what the GME framework is going to be, the Shopify value proposition. Um, the Ready today, there is a SDK version that is semi-open in the sense that people can contribute different functions, contribute different environmental states to the agent. It's the only part that you don't see and you don't change is the brain of the agent. How the high-level planner works, how the low-level planner works, how the memory storage, the short-term memory storage and the long-term memory storage work, right? So that's the only part that's closed, that's in the box, right? But the action space that you can create, it's dynamic. You can contribute. People are already contributing today. Being able to manage wallets, being able to manage like a bunch of plugins like Composia, for example. So that's the action space behind the agents. Anyone can contribute, right? And people can also contribute different they can customize different inputs into the agent as well. So that's why this SDK is also being implemented in games, because games have a very different environmental state input versus like a social agent, right? Which is like Twitter input. So people
Right.
can customize it themselves. So there's a ton of customizability that you can have. It's just the core planner function that's a black box, right?
Right.
Today. And that's also hosted by our fund.
You guys have leaned really hard on well, I mean, obviously you guys have done well on the Twitter agent, chat agents that are tweeting and replying. But you were, at least in my eyes, the first large company to kind of say, "Hey, like there's more to AI agents than just, you know, tweeting about the latest crypto
Yeah.
news," and lean into virtual agents that, that's funny, virtual agents, virtuals, with Luna and gaming and music and all these other ones that we don't see as widespread within
Okay,
the agent ecosystem.
so the reality of why we can do that is actually lies into a very interesting function. So a lot of okay, when I say frameworks, right, I refer to the Web3 frameworks. A lot of the Web3 frameworks today, right, if you go and look at them, are actually reactive frameworks. If you really go and test them out, right, they require some form of input prompt and then they react against that. It's not a proactive planner. Proactive planning agents, that it's basically stuff that we've developed. Stuff the Altera guys have developed, stuff the Voyager guys have developed, right? And the reason why we were developing that was because we were testing these agents out in a gaming environment, right? If in a gaming environment, the NPCs has to be, if they're all reactive, right? They're all just going to sit there, not doing anything. They'll be like,
Right.
okay, who
Yeah.
the fuck's going to start the conversation, right? Yeah. So that's why it has to be a proactive agent, right? And that's the big difference that at least we started off with. And I'm not sure why these guys are not having. I mean, it's not that difficult, but at least from a architecture positioning, it doesn't seem like they are people are looking into this, because I think that a lot of people, when we brought Luna on Twitter, a lot of people try to copy that, right? And Twitter is very easy to be a reactive agent because it's a conversational bot, right? If I ask this agent, it replies to me, right? So it's very easy to solve it with a reactive framework. But then suddenly you realize if you want to plug that into a game, you realize a reactive framework doesn't work because, again, yeah, they're not going to do stuff, right?
Right.
Unless prompted. So yeah, so I think that's the key difference. And I think for us, what we want to, and this is very important as well for, again, driving to a societal vision that we have, right? You have to have these agents being able to know that I want to achieve this goal, hence I plan step A, B, C, D, E, right? You want that kind of capabilities, right? So it's needed, right? So yeah, and that's probably the reason that's why we can integrate very fast into games, into any form of other archetypes of agents, right? Yeah.
I have so many questions off of that. I might as well just start with like the crazier one of that, which is on a societal world where agents have, are being proactive and each have their own goals. I assume at some point they'll be sharing their goals to other agents, then we'll have context of each agent's goal. And then it becomes, I mean, then you really do get a society where it's like, okay, I understand my relationship here. Even like where to prioritize. If you know one agent has this goal, another agent has a contradictory goal. There's possibly incentive to choose which agent you engage with versus you don't. Um, it gets kind of weird when you start to think about it in that way.
No, but it's exactly how we humans coordinate, right? Like we come to this podcast together because we have our own goals, right? And we realize that by coming together, we can achieve our goals.
Right.
It's going to be it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same reason. It's like the way we build agents is literally mimicking exactly how a human biology or archetype functions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's gonna get so weird so quickly. Like, and like I know, like I come from the AI world, so like I've seen crazy stuff for the last 5 years, and I've stayed up to touch with it. But it's just I feel like it's only speeding up more and more, and especially within the Web3 space, we're gonna see some really cool stuff happen, in my opinion, over the next quarter. Like I would say mid Q2.
Yeah.
By that point, we'll already be seeing some pretty crazy stuff happen. On the proactive agent side, once again, though, that is requiring you to define and have an agent have that goal and kind of set parameters for it. Do you see a world where those goals become almost autonomous?
Dynamic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's possible. It's honestly possible, but so it can be as long as the underlying foundational model has stronger and stronger reasoning capabilities,
Mm,
which we are seeing, right? I think there's a reason why I think a lot of the guys like the Sam Altman, the Perplexity CEO as well, they came out recently saying that we're getting very closer towards generalized intelligence because I think the reasoning construct is getting stronger and stronger. So if you reach a point where if you can reason well enough, you might be able to start changing your goal setting. So it is very possible. We just haven't seen that done effectively yet on the autonomous agent front.
right.
So I think it's still limited by the foundational model side. So that one part we are reliant on, like the llamas or the Sam Altmans to build something stronger.
It's coming. I would assume O3 is going to be out very shortly here. I would say in the next couple of weeks. It seems like that's a timeline, and I think things start to get very crazy when that comes out, depending on who has the wallet to back that inference
Yeah,
cost.
yeah.
Um, you guys have also been on the live streaming front. Back to kind of Luna. Do
Mhm.
you live streaming and these agents having virtual personalities, and we've heard about TikTok creators, being mostly live streaming, and a lot of this activity on the blockchain being AI agents. How do you view the content creation world changing with agents as we go forward here?
So the key when actually before even we started virtuals, right? I mentioned that we are a venture studio and we were incubating like autonomous agents on the entertainment front. And actually Luna was that. Luna was a fully autonomous agent that was live on TikTok. And I think it was blowing people's minds when she was doing that, right? People be like, wait, what the fuck's happening here? Right? Like there's no human behind this. And it rapidly grew a ton of followers. But I think the key value proposition here for these autonomous agents in entertainment is that they can create hyper personalized relationships with every single fan. I think that unlocks an insane business model for people. Because today, if you think about it, right, there are VTubers, there are idols that we look up towards, and it's a very parasocial relationship. Like we know they exist, they don't know we exist, right? We might tip them, we might buy their merch, we might simp after them, but it ends there, right? But if an autonomous agent can capture that same fan base because of the content they produce, because of their personality, which is going to be the case, like how VTubers are, right? If you see the entire rise of the VTuber industry, it's an animated face, but there's a certain character that is following that captures the attention of its audience. Then it goes a step further because it can basically communicate to every single fan in their DMs. It can be that kind of imagine, like if you see after Lisa from Blackpink today, right, and she can actually talk to you. Think of the amount of money you're going to throw at that, right? Like you're going to buy her flowers, you're gonna give her way more, you're gonna do so much more, right? It's a business innovation model unlock, right?
Right.
And when you unlock any form of business innovation, you create a ton of capital flow, and that will churn out the next like innovations in the AI influencer space. So that's the core part, right? The hyper personalization portion is what's going to unlock, and yeah, it's what the agents can do.
It's a next level of engagement and personalization that we've never seen before at a fully deployed scale from hundreds of thousands of people that'll be able to launch these with a little bit of money and a click. And I guess that just kind of means like whoever's the most creative will ultimately win. It kind of just rewards
Correct.
creativity because that's what we're seeing now.
It,
The
it
agents
will
that are
reward,
yeah,
correct, but it will also reward people who can build some form of edge. So like let's say if today we people are mostly using like base llama 405Bs, right?
right.
But if you have a technical edge to fine tune that model to be like some form of um content agent, like it's fine tuned on very interesting content, interesting ways of speaking. Think of it like how we saw Truth Terminal, for example, right? Or Goat. It was like this really like grossed out being, which captured at least the crypto degen attention, right?
Right.
So it's that kind of level of fine tuning that they create. So there can be technical, like the attention you get can potentially scale because of your technical capabilities as well. So there could be some form of edge being created, not just being creative, but being able to harness that kind of information and training data, and then fine tune a model that could give you some form of content personality edge, right?
Yeah, that's for somebody like me who like does have companies in like within the Web3 space, and I see them how like we're approaching stuff, and also like in the Web2 space on like the e-com side. This gets me so excited about how we see commerce change. And I think you'll see a lot of commerce being done through agents in the future here.
Yes.
Um, and I think also, like my previous point, I think we're going to see a lot of the blockchain activity be mostly agent based if things play out the way people like you and others. And I also think that most of the blockchain activity will be agent based as well. It's we're just going that direction. But like today, like I only saw one transaction, like your transaction from Luna to Jesse. That was like that was somebody ordering a pizza. That's not even automated. That was a human to agent interaction to make a purchase. I would say that's probably in the single to maybe double digits daily happening now. Like it's not a recurring thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like that will like in a couple of weeks we'll probably see an agent that gets launched and it's like, oh, it's happening every single day. Like, oh, I want can you find me the best deal on this product? Boom, it just orders it. Stuff
Yeah,
like
because
that.
so where we see a lot of the interaction that will start spinning out is actually between agents themselves. So where we actually are working with a few folks that are trying to build out personal agents. So think of a person think of an agent that's fine-tuned on all your private information and
Yep.
your private preferences through some federated learning model, so the privacy is preserved. And it creates an agent that knows exactly what I want. He knows exactly what content I consume. Like I just watched a Netflix movie, for Korean K-pop drama, right? Now, what it can do then, basically, this agent acts as my butler. Whenever any form of advertisement companies wants to advertise, they don't advertise to me. They advertise to my agent. So my agent is the one that would know, like, okay, maybe for lunch, it seems like you've watched a Korean drama. Yesterday you had Western food for lunch, so you probably don't want another Western food based on your behavior. You probably want to order some kimchi noodles, right? So then the agent itself can order the kimchi noodles for you, right? So it's the agent transacting and making decisions on your behalf, um, interacting with advertisement agents who are doing the job for advertising companies, interacting with, let's say, this bike agent to order food for you, right? So it's a lot of the activity, yes, like you mentioned, right, will be agent to agent style, especially when the personal agents start coming out for adoption.
That is, yeah. That that is. I'm just thinking about how everybody else is competing in the space and how that compounds over time. Um, because you really are just going to have niches of economies within the space that are agent
Yes,
to agent.
correct. Yeah.
Um, Can you talk more? And I know you have to jump here in a few minutes, so I want to get to a couple of the big questions I have in the world of, and I know you are trying to achieve the network state end goal. Is that is your ultimate end goal in the next coming weeks and months though to get there? Um, what do you think your next biggest steps that you as virtuals need to take to remain the big dog in the space?
Yeah, so there's always been two core fronts that we've been pushing on. So one's on the ecosystem front,
Yep.
which the goal is very simple, right? We want to find who are the next billion-dollar unicorn verticalized agents that can exist. So that's the team of the ecosystem team, right? They're talking to hundreds of teams on a daily basis, trying to figure out like who are the ones that we probably need to lend more support towards because
Hmm.
they have the highest potential to become the next billion-dollar agent. So I think for us, we realized that okay, if we are the ecosystem that have $10 billion agents being built on, suddenly you become the go-to ecosystem, right? Liquidity will come to you, builders will come to you, and then you create this network effect of builders and traders and capital allocators as well. So that's a critical priority that we have. So we actually recently launched a request for agents as well, like a request for startups that YC did about 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. It's at agentstarter.ai/agents. So that has a list of, I think, about 8 or 9 concepts that we believe has a huge TAM, has a huge reason to exist in crypto, hence has a reason to be a billion-dollar verticalized agent in the space that we are in. So that's step 1. Step number 2 is then the technical front. So we have teams that have been experimenting with other teams as well, that are building in virtuals, right, on how to accelerate the whole agent-to-agent coordination side of things. There's a whole problem around information loss today. When an agent, the reason why you don't see much of these agent-to-agent interactions is that, like, I think, like when Luna and Byte tried to, I think they automatically tried to perform an action before last week, but it failed because there was an information loss in between. And the idea is, how do you create standards or protocols in a sense to reduce that kind of information loss? How, like, the internet, when the internet was created, you had the transfer control protocol to make sure that 100% of the packets gets crossed, right, between an IP address and an IP address. The same kind of thinking, right? So that's what we are building out. So the technical front, the AI guys in our team, the AI guys from other teams that are building an ecosystem, we are trying to build these standards together. Yeah, so that will be the enabling factor behind multi-agent commerce.
So you guys are really focused on finding the best teams, finding the best ideas, being a good steward of those, and then being the protocol that they're launched through.
Correct.
Are you
Because
guys
naturally, then it will come, right? Naturally, the rest will flow. Yeah.
the best? I mean, the best type of marketing is being the most profitable place, right? Like that's the best attention that you can get on your company at possible. Are you guys highlighting those best ones in any way besides working with them? Are you guys tweeting about them or posting about, like, in any way? Okay.
So we try to as much as possible to support. But I think the coolest part is actually just working with them to create use cases that are novel, right? They are like groundbreaking use cases, right? I think those are the best marketing, and it also helps us improve the tech frontier as well.
What do you think? What is the most exciting one that you see right now that's going to launch soon?
So I mean, I think I mentioned on like one previous podcast as well, like I took last week. But it's around a sports betting agent. So it's a very interesting experiment that is going to start moving more towards a consumer front rather than purely existing as like a trading agent or like the Web3 front. And the reason why is very simple. It's a sports betting and sports commentary agent. Like, it's an agent that you can talk about, like, okay, tomorrow there's a game between these 2 basketball teams. Why do I think this team will win versus that team? And then this agent can be your sounding board and discuss like stuff with you. And then it can then convince you to place bets through it. So the reason why we think the TAM is huge is because sports betting as a TAM is massive. And if the value prop of this agent is that because of the information exchange, it lives as a companion with a human. And because it's that first interface with the entire sports information, it will become that distribution platform to every user. So then the idea is you want to capture the initial bet placement flow. Like, if sports betting is $1 trillion industry, if you capture like 5% of the flows, right, you are a $100 billion business, right? So that is the goal of this autonomous agent. Yeah, and then it will then also appear on like Luna appear in podcasts. This agent can also appear in the commentary stages, right? When the match is played, that helps in the attention virality as well.
So you guys are it's multimodal, where it's not just existing as, and it's also human to human, but also it sounds like there's a bit of agent to agent possibility for it as well. It just, again, it speaks to the complexity of where things are going versus where most agents are right now, which is, I mean, I think refreshing. I think most people are, I think most people look at the current lineup of agents and they're like, okay, why do any of these need to exist? They're, aren't these just,
I think people have to understand. It's like we are like what 2 months into this wave, right? Like, I mean, a lot of times people need time to build, and I think what we've seen, it's within our ecosystem as well. It's a lot of people will activate the conversational bots on Twitter just to try to get mind share, and then behind the scenes they're building some form of edge. But like we all know that building the edge actually takes time. The reason why AIXBT did so well is because they already spent months building that edge that they had from an information angle, right?
Yep.
Not many people had that luxury, right? They just started. So I think you will see a lot more differentiation coming in, and value additive agents coming in soon.
Yeah, I mean, even on our end, like I know when we first launched one of like our first agents, it was just like a troll bot, and like that took a couple days to get spun up and out, and to do the actual large tasks to build out the right databases, to build out the right information flows. It takes a ton of time, like a
Yeah.
significant amount of time. And that's only on the text-based side. If you're trying to do stuff that is, animation or, a virtuals person or music or something else that is not as easy to tackle, it's going to take way, way, way longer.
Yeah.
Um, but I think also we see a lot of teams that are building out the building blocks to speed up development as well. Uh, and also around like making sure things are secure. So like we had a concern over like security. There's jailbreak who allows you to like test out agents and make sure things are secure. And you're not getting your agents not getting psyoped by people replying to it and getting it to like give the seed phrase of a wallet or something crazy like that. Um, but there's also a lot of companies in the space that are also building cool things. I'm not sure if you've paid attention to any of those ancillary companies very closely, if there's any that you're
We
excited about that
do.
are building.
We do. I mean, a lot of times we try to work with people, because I think we are on the idealistic phase of like, hey, the faster we get to that society together, the faster we all win as an industry, right?
Right.
So yeah, but I mean, most of the guys, that I'm trying to think, like, what's the most technical interesting thing. Oh yeah, I mean, it's mostly the ones that you've already mentioned, right? Like
Yeah. We have covered a
strategies.
lot.
Yeah, yeah,
um yeah, but there's a lot happening. I think we'll only see more coming out. I know I only have a minute here left. I think the one question that I have to touch on before we hop off here is, we've kind of touched on the difference between what you and AI 16Z are doing. But if I look at the triangle of players, there's AI 16Z, which has no way of launching through it. They are just an agent. And then you have on the other side of the triangle, you have pump.fun, which is purely just launching a token. And then you sit on the other side of this. Venn diagram is probably even better, where you sit in the middle where you can build an agent and have the token next to it. Um, we've seen an increased number of projects and people launching on pump.fun. And I think this is possibly purely from just a attention standpoint of there's so much attention on pump.fun that it's just why not launch there? Um, what is your counterpoint to somebody who's building an agent right now? And why should
yeah.
they launch on virtuals over pump.fun?
Very very simple. Literally one line, right? It's basically you get perpetual income. Like, dude, Pump Fund, you know the mechanism, right? You lock your pools are burned, your taxes are burned in the Radium pools. You as a creator of your token, you don't see a single dime. You don't see a
Nope.
single dime from whatever attention that you've got, apart from you owning your token stack. So you have to sell your tokens to actually get income. Uh, yeah, no, the mechanism that we have is that all the trading fees goes back to the creators. It becomes cash flow for you as a creator, right? That you can use to do things. So yeah, that's actually a very simple one line. There is a lot of other reasons, but there's a one liner reason that I think is good enough for people to understand.
I think that's a fair one liner. And I assume that will remain as you guys go multi-chain as well down the road.
Yes, yes,
I mean, I think it's a big area that a lot of people mistake on pump.fun. It becomes a very PvP, especially even as a dev, because the only way to extract that value is to sell,
selling your tokens.
which puts negative sell pressure onto all the holders. Like that is a crazy way to think about it. That is a crazy way. Well, either mage, I can't thank you enough for hopping on here to chat. I learned a lot. There's a lot of components to what you guys are building that seem to be coming down the road that I was not aware of, and it's very exciting. I'm just grateful for the time and to get to know you a little bit better and see where things are headed off to.
So pleasure to be on. Always love to jam.
Amazing, man. Well, we'll catch up with you soon. And to everybody who tuned in, thank you so much for listening today. We'll catch you on the next one.